Hi, this is my short tutorial on gluing and assembling latex. The first step is to prepare the surface using the cleaner. This removes the powder that was applied by the manufacturer. It also removes any white pen marks you've made, even those you actually need. Hence why I was extending the marks in the opening shot before cleaning this edge. The cleaner is very volatile and flammable. I've decanted a small volume into a single portion jam jar, as you can see. If you use a larger container, you'll just lose more through evaporation. Always keep the lid on the jar to reduce the amount of fumes. You'll notice that I'm wearing vinyl gloves. Prolonged skin contact with the cleaner should be avoided. Just use the precautions you would for other household chemicals. Also, because of the extreme volatility, the fumes can build up, so you need to ensure that your working environment is properly ventilated. A small jar helps in this respect too. I'm using a small piece of J-cloth to apply the cleaner. A single J-cloth gives me about 16 pieces. If you use a piece of cloth that's bigger than this, you'll just soak up more than you need, and then lose this through evaporation before you can use it. This will lead to more fumes in your environment. The powder transfers to the J-cloth, and you'll notice that after a while you start leaving marks where you're trying to clean. Refold the cloth to get a fresh bit. Once you've done this a few times, then just bin it, use a fresh piece. If you use too much cleaner, the latex will buckle. This will settle down again after a few minutes and does no harm other than to slow you down. The next step is to apply the glue. The glue is also pretty volatile. As it dries out, it becomes more viscous and harder to work with. Therefore, I also decant this into a small jar. The glue spreader is like you used at school. They're really cheap and they last forever. When you buy them, they're about 13mm across. I've cut this down to 7mm with scissors. You'll want a few different sizes, but 7mm is about right for general use. The trick is to get just the right amount of glue onto the spreader. Too much and it will spread too widely and be untidy. Too little and you'll be dipping in the pot too often or not getting proper coverage, which will lead to weak seams. The glue starts to thicken immediately as the solvent evaporates. You've only got 5 to 10 seconds to use the glue on the spreader before it's useless. Also, you should avoid brushing the spreader on the edge of the jar as if it was paint. You'll just end up with strands of glue. Don't re-dip. If you've got way too much or too little, then wipe it off on some kitchen towel and go again. The neater you can be at this stage, the better. You need to get all the way to the cut edge of the latex, but not over it. If you get it on your desk, then you'll find it acts a bit like pizza cheese when you move the piece, and end up with little balls of glue as these strands break and spring back. These make a seam look bad. If you do go over the edge, then just move your piece slightly before the glue has had a chance to dry. If you do get a glue ball, then use tweezers to pick it off before assembling the seam. You must have no gaps in the application of glue, and it should go all the way to the edge. If you have gaps, you'll end up with a weak seam that could burst and rip when stretched. After some practice, you should find that you can move along at a reasonable pace. It's far better to go slowly and to be neat, as it takes far longer to fix issues than to prevent them. The amount of glue that is ideal is the minimum amount when you can see that there is complete coverage. When you've used the ideal amount, it will dry almost instantly. If you've used too much, the seam will not be as tidy. If you use way too much, then latex may buckle and will take a minute or two to settle down. Regularly clean the spreader on some kitchen towel to prevent any build-up of dried glue on it. Protect the glued surface with cling film. I've cut a 1/2 inch slice from a roll of cling film to give me a continuous 1/2 inch tape. Ensure that the glued section is not right at the edge of the cling film, otherwise it's going to be hard to remove. The cling film allows you to prepare all the seams before you start assembly. Cleaning and applying the glue is much easier when the latex lies completely flat on your work surface. First double check that you're about to stick the correct pieces together and in the correct direction. This is where it is essential to have marked all the pieces carefully. Arrange the pieces so that you can clearly see what you're doing. This sounds obvious, but it's key that you have good visibility and good light. Don't be impatient to start sticking. Remove the cling film from both pieces, but not too much of it. Unprotected glued surfaces will stick to each other instantly and will pick up talc, powder or other contaminants very readily, leading to a weak seam. This is a reason to keep your work area clean and tidy. As your glued line will be consistently 7mm wide because of the 7mm glue spreader we used, and we're looking for a 5mm overlap, it's easy to use the glued area as the guide to see the amount that your pieces are overlapping. You don't need to continually try and see what overlap you're achieving. Don't need to apply too much pressure at this stage. It looks like I'm pressing hard, but I'm not at all. What you do need to do is ensure that you prevent air bubbles by ensuring that you smooth the pieces together carefully. Hence you always work along the seam and don't let the surfaces ahead of you touch. It's easy to inadvertently stretch the piece as you line them up, and if you don't realise this is happening, you could be several centimetres out at the end of a long seam. I've put marks every 5 centimetres along both pieces. These come directly from the pattern, so I know that the marks line up, the ends will line up. When the edges are curved, which will normally be the case, then the trick is to get the pieces to line up with a constant overlap without having to apply undue stretch. To an extent, curved pieces must stretch to line up. The tighter the radius, the more stretch. Uneven amount of stretch will be visible in the final results as dimples. The latex will adhere immediately, but it's very easy at this stage to unpeel it. So if you've gone slightly wrong, then just wind back, adopt a new position, and go again. As long as you're not repeatedly touching the glued surface and getting powder on it, or oil from your fingers, then there is no harm in attempting the seam several times, though obviously it is better to get it right first time. Once the seam is complete, then press it firmly with the roller. Ensure before you start there's nothing underneath, ideally no other layers of latex, just the cutting board. You will now see the quality of your seam. Ideally there will be no air bubbles, no lumps from glue balls, a consistent overlap, no untidy excess glue and no dimples. Excess glue can be removed with a cleaner. The look of dimples seems to improve a little overnight. After firm rolling, the seam should now be at full strength.